Hi, welcome to the show. As you know, it is the start of spring break. Which brings us to the question. Do you ever feel like you're being unjustly suspended for something that you probably didn't do or did do? That's the case in this first story. This happened here in Corpus CCISD. Hamlin Middle School, Hamlin Middle School, where a classroom controversy happened between vape. Take a look at this. And we'll throw in some common sense.
New at 10 tonight, the mother of a Hamlin Middle School student has retained the services of a local attorney. The reason? She says her son was unjustly suspended, and she has proof. It all started with a backpack search conducted at the school. Officials were looking for contraband. Eventually, a vape pen was found behind a cabinet in a classroom. This is where the story takes a turn. One student's cell phone was recording audio. In that recording, one of the school's assistant principals can be heard telling the officer to place that vape pen in a student's bag. That student was then questioned by school officials and eventually suspended. Well, the mother of that student confronted that assistant principal, and here is some of that exchange that the mother recorded. Chris Six got permission to air this tonight, and we're withholding the name of the student and assistant principal at the center of the story.
We hear y'all's entire conversation, and it's you and the police officer.
We're the only ones in there to get them to tell us who was hiding the vapes in our classroom. And so when he admitted to being a part of it, it was never.
You would say he admitted to being a part of it.
And the seeing it and kicking it and all that.
That's not being a part of it. That's not being a part of it. The boy threw it under the table. It landed by his foot. The boy said, "Can you hide it?" He said no. The boy picked it up and threw it in the cabinet behind where Cash was sitting. Where I'm assuming is where the officer found it, right? Because he said, well, Cash was sitting back here. And so I don't care tactic or no tactic. You could have told me that. You didn't have to tell him that, but you could have told me, hey, you know what? He said we found it in his backpack, but it's just a tactic so we can see if they're going to tell the truth. But that's not what you told me.
In a statement from CCISD, they do confirm that one employee is on administrative leave with pay until their investigation is finalized. They also say another employee is no longer with the district. The statement goes on to say that the district, quote, does not support nor tolerate such alleged behavior on any school or district property. We'll keep you updated.
Okay. You know what this calls for? Common sense alert! Telling an officer to hide a vape pen in a student's backpack? No. Let's rewatch this again just to be sure. Let's rewatch it.
New at 10 tonight, the mother of a Hamlin Middle School student.
I want to take you step by step, so let's rewatch this.
The reason? She says her son was unjustly suspended, and she has proof. It all started with...
Okay, first of all, let's look at the definition of unjustly. It's based on or behaving according to what is morally right and fair. Unjustly means in a manner that is not accordance with what is more morally right and fair. Probably the same thing.
The backpack search conducted at the school. Officials were looking for contraband. Eventually, a vape pen was found behind a cabinet in a classroom. This is where the story takes a turn. One student's cell phone was recording audio. In that recording, one of the school's assistant principals can be heard telling the officer to place that vape pen in a student's bag. That student was then questioned by school officials and eventually suspended. Well, the mother of that student confronted that assistant principal, and here is some of that exchange that the mother recorded. Chris Six got permission to air this tonight, and we're withholding the name of the student and assistant principal at the center of the story.
We hear y'all's entire conversation, and it's you and the police officer.
We're the only ones in there to get them to tell us who was hiding the vapes in our classroom. And so when he admitted to being a part of it, it was never.
You would say he admitted to being a part of it.
And the seeing it and kicking it and all that.
That's not being a part of it. That's not being a part of it. The boy threw it under the table. It landed by his foot. The boy said, "Can you hide it?" He said no. The boy picked it up and threw it in the cabinet behind where Cash was sitting. Where I'm assuming is where the officer found it, right? Because he said, "Well, Cash was sitting back here." And so I don't care tactic or no tactic. You could have told me that. You didn't have to tell him that, but you could have told me, "Hey, you know what? He said we found it in his backpack, but it's just a tactic so we can see if they're going to tell the truth." But that's not what you told me.
Okay. We now know the truth. It was in the audio recordings. The audio recordings. We now know what happened. The assistant principal told the officer to hide the vape pen in the backpack, had them search it, bam, caught red-handed. But the other side of the story is the mother said he didn't. The boy asked the other boy to hide it. He said no. And he threw it in the cabinet knowing he wouldn't get caught. So where does common sense fit in all this? This is my common sense. To the assistant principal out there, you need to be retrained or leave. This was not your job. If you came on and fessed up to your side of the story saying all this, it was in the audio recordings. You got caught red-handed. And what does the principal do? Bridget Limericks, whatever. Not do a damn thing. But say, "Hey, hide the vape pen. We'll do something about it." The board needs to look at these audio recordings and make damn well sure that employee needs to be retrained, suspended, or not at work again. While we cannot share details of personal actions investigated, nor can we discuss parent means, we can confirm one of the employees on administrative leave. Okay, that's good. Until further investigation is standard practice, and one employee is no longer with the district. There we go. If it was the officer, then that bitch ain't gotta learn a lesson. CCIC does not support nor tolerate such alleged behavior by any school district currently. We command a school administrator for taking swift action on warranted investigation of these serious allegations. Those recordings, evidence being played in, the assistant principal. The superintendent heard about this, he would be furious. Very furious. But we'll keep you updated on this, and we'll let you know what happens. But coming up next, our main issue. When is it appropriate to talk to your kids about sex? To have that sex talk with your kids? And to hear the question, "Mommy, where do babies come from? Why do mommies and daddies kiss? What is a vagina? Is it a dinosaur?" We're going to tell you tell you the do's and don'ts. Stay with us. It's a question and talk that nobody wants to hear, but it's something for parents to understand. Tonight, we're going to ask the question, when is it appropriate to talk to your kids about sex? It's a question that kids ask, where do babies come from, so-and-so, that makes parents want to duck for cover. Not anymore. This hour tonight is for you parents out there that want to learn how to talk to your kids about sex. And with a great example, this episode of Dr. Phil is really going to help us from the question, when is it appropriate to tell your kids about sex, to birth control, to dates. We're going to try to focus in on all these things because it's the first time in 6 years we've ever talked about sex. And I'm here to give you parents out there a good sex education. Not the kind you see at school, but for parents that want to learn how to really talk to your kids about sex. Because really, in different parts of culture, like Christianity or something else, or Catholicism, I'm going to give you an example from Paul Rodriguez. Let me see if I can find it. I know they're probably going to be like, after me for talking about this, blah, blah, blah. And before we get started, I want to point out something. I am not throwing any parents out there on the bus. This is the educational tool for all parents. So, really, don't be going on here, don't be commenting on YouTube or social media saying that I should be talking about this because I've had a lot of time to think about this, and really, parent. I mean, it's 50-50. 50% of parents don't want to talk to their kids about sex. 50% say they do. So let's take a look. Here's Paul Rodriguez. Here's an example on Catholicism.
Our parents, because of Catholicism, because of tradition, we never talk to our kids about sex. That's why so many of our young girls grow ignorant and pregnant. We never discuss it because it's a taboo, you know. I remember I asked my mother, I said, "Ma, where do babies come from?" She's slapping. Ave María Purísima. Cochino, desgraciado. Bárbaro, grosero. Why do you want to know where babies come from? Because I'm 25. Mothers will never tell you, go ask your father, go ask your father. I asked my father, you know. And my father goes, my father took about 10 seconds to tell me about sex. He said, bueno, Teo, all I gotta tell you is that you got a loaded gun in your pants now. Be careful where you pull the trigger, eh? Go play, cabrón.
Okay, that's just enough. But that's part of culture. Now, I'm not going to judge different cultures. That's not what this special is about. This hour is just really important because parents out there don't even know the right words when it comes to stuff like this. So, when I watched this episode of Dr. Phil before doing this special tonight, doing this hour tonight, it really stunned me. The correct answer to this was birth. You don't believe me? Let me play your clip. We're going to try to go in order here from birth. We're going to try to go in order here. So let's go. We're going to try to go to the birth question to the birth control question. So take a look.
Birth. Now, let me explain. At the top of the show, I said the appropriate age to begin sex education with your kids was at birth. Now, let me explain what I'm talking about, and I think Dr. Turbin addresses this in the book. It's important to provide loving and caring interaction.
So here's the do's. Provide loving, caring interactions like a tickle, a hug, and a kiss. Support the body explosion, especially during hygiene and potty training. And always monitor social exposure models from TV to personal contacts. Those are the do's in a situation. Now the don'ts in this, I'm not playing the audio because I don't want to be demonetized for a reason. The don'ts in this case is don't shame because of what your child does or says sexually. Don't reference to what child does sexually as funny or bad, and don't project adult behavior onto an infant. Actually, let me play it.
Do sexually, you got to be open about that every step of the way. And if they do bring up something that's sexual, you don't want to treat it as though it's funny or bad. Oh no, don't say that. And don't project adult behaviors onto infants. I mean, they'll do things as infants that would mean something different as an adult. Listen, I want to thank all.
So, now that we got the infant part of this, it's really important for you to know that the appropriate age is an infant. I know what you're thinking, like, whoa there, buddy. Whoa there, buddy. You're wrong there, boy. Boy-o, daddy-o. But he's right. There's a book that talks about this. And I recommend that you get this book by John T. Sherman. It's called How to Talk to Your Kids About Sex. Help your children develop a positive, healthy attitude towards sex and relationships. I recommend that you get this book and start reading it. That way you can learn all about sex And you can read this book while you're watching this special, because I'm going to give you some step-by-step instructions on how to talk to your kids about sex from here to there. And during that time, it's really an ongoing experience. That way you can learn. When we come back, we're moving on to the birth control. When is it appropriate to talk to your kid, to talk to your tween or teens about what age is appropriate to talk about birth control? Stay with us. We'll answer that question for you. When is it appropriate to talk to your teen girls about birth control? The research shows that it's about 12 years of age. That's when you want to start talking to your 12-year-olds all about birth control. That's what the research shows. Here's an example.
All right, why do you think she's doing this?
We missed something somewhere, that's for sure. I don't know when or where.
I think what she has to say is very informative. So you may hear some of it for the first time, maybe not. Let's listen to what she had to say, and then we'll talk about it.
Because this is really all about birth control here. Now that you've gotten out of the birth control, a lot of people may say, oh, that's just too young of age, but it's really what the research shows. That's what experts say. And now here's an example of a mother who really wants to talk to her kids all about sex. Let's take a listen.
Advisory board and a clinical instructor in psychology at Harvard Medical School at the Cambridge Hospital, Dr. John Cherban. Dr. Cherban is author of a new book which every parent needs to read. Let me rephrase that. Every parent needs to read before dark today.
And every parent needs to watch this special right now.
The title of the book is How to Talk with Your Kids About Sex. And John, thank you for being here, and thanks for writing this book.
I can't wait to read it.
Okay, so you have a 12-year-old.
I do.
Smart.
Very.
Outgoing.
Very.
Attractive.
Beautiful.
So she's going to have a boyfriend at some point, very likely, right?
Yes.
Well, you say that like, really? My daughter?
I know.
And you have excuse after excuse after excuse. You say you can't find the right time. She's never asked, so why bring it up, right? You just keep coming up with it.
Well, I know I need to do it, and in my opinion, 12 was a good age. So this is why I'm here.
So, do you realize you need to talk to her about this?
Yes, absolutely.
So you're not, we don't need to convince you need to do it. You just need to know how to do it.
Yep.
Where does she start, John? Role play?
Sure.
This is your 12-year-old daughter.
Okay.
Oh, yay.
And,
No, this is awesome.
and you want to empower the child with accurate information. You're talking about sex. Tell her what you would say.
I've been wanting to talk with you about a part of life that's so very important, and it's called sex. What are you thinking about that? It's a little frightening, huh? Well, when you hear that word, what comes to your mind?
Ew.
Okay.
I've got that response from
No,
her
I got
before.
you.
Well, have you ever used the word that's sexy, or you ever heard anyone say that?
No, yeah, I've heard it.
What do you think they're talking about?
Okay, now I'm gonna put myself in her shoes. Looking nice, or dressing maybe inappropriate, or
Inappropriate.
Yeah.
So, do you think sex is inappropriate?
I don't know.
You don't know. Well, why don't we talk a little bit about it and find out what it might mean? So I want to sit down and talk with you about this word and see, it seems like it's not so clear for you. In sex ed, have you talked about sex at all?
A little bit.
What kind of things were they shared with you?
Just about puberty and how babies are made and things like that.
Okay. And what do you think about how babies are made, or the idea that one day you might be having a baby?
I don't know.
You're not sure? Okay. All right.
You're doing great. So are you. Okay. This is so realistic. Go ahead.
Well, I want to go over with you what is in the sex ed, and I want to talk with you about some of those parts, because sex is really a very important part of our life, and it actually connects us with people. What do you think about that? You know, I mean, it connects you. You know that it connects us physically. It doesn't sound like you're wanting to talk about that too much. But I want you to have all of this under your belt so that when you're walking in life and someone says something, you know what they're thinking or you know what they're up to. And you also know what you're wanting, because that's the most important thing for me.
Thank you, Mom.
So you want out of this conversation. You're 12 years old.
No, it did put me in a little bit of, it put me in her shoes, or how she may feel.
Yes,
Although I'm 30, not 12, it's,
Right, yeah.
you know, it's kind of gives me an idea of how she may feel.
And that's a great idea. That is really a great idea. Role play this. Role play it with your parents. That way, you may understand how to talk to your kids about this type of issue. Here's another question, and then we're going to take a break. Because this question just really pops up. So here's the question. Let me pull up that question. At what age is it appropriate to begin going on a date alone? We're going to answer that question when we return and give you guys more step-by-step instructions on how to talk to your kids. If you want to get the kids involved in role-playing while you're watching this episode, that's great. I mean, you may get your other parents to watch, you may get a neighbor to help out. This is really a good education. So get your friends, grab some popcorn if you need to. Get out your pen and paper. Actually, no, you don't need to do that. But if you want to get your pen and paper or start writing down some things while you're watching this episode or watching this and watching me, you may do so. Stay with us. If you just joined us, we're asking the question, at what age is it, we're talking about sex talk and asking the question, when is it appropriate to talk to your kids about sex? So far what we talked about here is the right age to talk to your kids about sex is at birth. The reason for that is because throughout the hygiene and the potty training and throughout live TV so-and-so, then we also focus on birth control. The age of 12 is what the experts say. They really focus in on how it is, what birth control is, so-and-so, blah, 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 blah. Now, here's the question. At what age is it appropriate to begin going on a date alone?
All right.
The answer is 16.
Now, if you said 12, stand up. Yeah, that's what I thought. Now, the damn one of you is going to admit saying 12. 12 is too young. The answer is 16.
That's right. The answer is 16. So really, if your daughter or planning to go on a date alone, you really gotta have that talk about the dating. Like when a guy goes on alone with a girl, or when the girl goes alone with a guy, so and so. Have that kind of talk before they start dating. At 16. I mean, before 16. Like, I would recommend at 12 or 14. I recommend 4 to 2 years apart. You can do it at 12, you can do it at 14, or a year before. I recommend you go at 14. That way they'll have 2 more years to experience. And practice that. What I recommend you do for one of my parents is practice going on a date with the child. Now, you may be thinking, oh my gosh, I don't want to date my 12-year-old. No. You're, as parents, pretend, for sons that want to go on the date experience, as a mother, you pretend to be the girlfriend and your son pretends to be the boyfriend. Now, for fathers, the father pretends to be the boyfriend and the daughter pretends to be the girlfriend. Practice that experience. Role play it out. Start talking. Start getting to know. Start getting to know about the boyfriend or the girlfriend. That way, you may feel interested. You may feel like you're in love with him. It may not be at that experience. let's skip out of Dr. Phil just 1 second. What I want to do is play you a clip from the principal's office. Yeah, you heard right. When I watched this clip, let me tell you something. I was probably shocked that she came to her principal asking about dating. And I swore I wasn't going to show this to you guys, but that's what this special is all about. Really helping you understand how to really talk to your kids about sex. So we're going to skip out of the parents for just a moment because I want to play you... What did I press clear? I really want to play you guys an example. From the principal's office. And in 6 years, we've never talked about something like this. And y'all might be asking me, Jonathan, is it okay for my child to do to attend sex education? Absolutely. I mean, if you feel like you can't shrug this off your shoulder, so and so, then you may feel like sex education could be the best thing. Let's take a look at this. Because if you feel like that your school needs to learn about sex ed, then that's good. That's part of like a health class or whatever. Sex education works great. All right, take a look at this.
Sometimes when a student comes to talk to me in my office, it's not always about discipline. It's about guidance. Hey, Megan.
Hi, how are you?
It is great to see you, darling. What brings you here?
I'm having some boy problems that I need help with.
What's going on?
I like this boy. And we've been hanging out for a couple months now. Almost every weekend we mess around a little bit. And we've been having a lot of fun. And we're going to prom together next weekend.
Now you say that the two of you mess around. I just need to know what level we are.
We do not have sex.
Okay.
And I'd like if he was my boyfriend so I could have him all to myself. I was wondering if you had advice for how I could kind of push him along to ask me out.
The fact that Megan has come to an administrator to deal with such a personal issue is actually a compliment. Sometimes we need to present the obvious to males. Sometimes.
So how exactly should I say it?
If he leans in to kiss you, what is this? You know, I'm sitting here thinking, what are we? I don't even know where to put you. I mean, I gotta put people in a place. I mean, are you my friend? Are you my pal?
Yeah.
And then if he starts backpedaling, you just know he's not ready, and you leave him alone. Give him time to definitely figure out where he is. Trust me, he will call you. Remember, your goal is you want this guy to have you as his girlfriend. I sincerely hope that this is not a situation where the young man is thinking, why buy the cow when I can get the milk for free? And the salesman came up to you and said, hey, you can drive this top-of-the-line model car for 6 months for free. Would you do it?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the 6 months, he goes, okay, would you like to buy this car? Would you buy it?
Probably not.
Why not?
Because I already got to use it for 6 months, so I don't really want to buy it.
Exactly.
So you think he's taking me for a test drive right now?
I think he's enjoying you allowing him to take you for a test drive. Remember, you're in it too. You've allowed it. I can't just blame him. Just know that you're worth someone having you as a relationship, not as a friend with benefits. That's what I'm hearing now. Friends with benefits. No.
Okay.
Thank you, Megan.
I'll see you later.
Have a good one, dear.
What I've learned from this phone part, I shouldn't be just in this gray area wondering what's going on. I should be able to ask him what we are, and I should have clarity. I deserve it. So
the fact that she went to an administrator for help, for guidance, it's not just a compliment. It's really a good thing. Like, if you're not ready for this, talk to an administrator, talk to a counselor. I don't recommend it if you're. I don't recommend it, but if you're gonna do that, knock your lights out. But the most important thing you have to remember is, if your daughter gets a girlfriend, or the boyfriend gets a girlfriend, or however it want to be, think about the 6 months thing. if you get Netflix for 6 months for free, and then you gotta pay $10, would you do it? Your answer would be probably not, because you got to use it. You got it free for 6 months. Why would I bother paying for it? When we dragged it out of the parents, now it's on to the kids. So this is for the teens out there. So think about this for all the teens watching. If the 6 months thing, if you got Netflix for 6 months for your Disney Plus, Hulu, whatever, 6 months free, would you? And then they tell you, okay, you want to buy it? Would you buy it, or would you not buy it and try something else? Probably you would say I would buy it, because he's really cute, she's really beautiful, she's really cute, he's strong, he's beautiful, blah blah blah. Okay, that is basically your choice. But look, I'm not trying to make you decide who should be your girlfriend, whatever. I'm seeing you guys the facts. These are the facts here. These are what the experts have to say, and this is what's being pointed out to me when I first started thinking about doing a special tonight. So this is not just for parents. This is also for teens and for kids. Now we're going to go back to the parents, because when we come back, how do I answer my kids' questions about sex and relationships? I'm going to give you some advice as well as some hints and tips after the break. Stay with us. We're talking about asking kids. We're talking about kids asking parents about sex, like where do babies come from, so and so. So far, what we've been talking about is the right answer, from learning at birth to birth control at 12 to dating alone at 16. Now, a few parents are going to be asking, how should I start talking with a kid about sex relationships? When should I start talking about it? Now, we get to the other side here from panparentingher.org. Research tells us that kids and teens who have regular conversations with their parents and their caregivers about sex relationships are less likely to take risks with their sexual health and more likely to be healthy and safe. So it's never too early and never too late to start talking with your kid about sex relationships. As soon as kids start learning to talk, you can teach them the names of parts of their body as soon as you start being around other kids. You can teach them about respecting each other and talking about their feelings. These things lay on the groundwork for healthy sexually and relationships later on. How do you keep a conversation age appropriate? It's all about the details you include. If 5-year-olds ask, what's birth? You can respond like when a baby comes out of a mother's body. 10-year-old asks the same question, you can add more detail and might start with, after 9 months of growing inside the mother's uterus, a baby comes out through her vagina. But hey, don't worry if your kid's in the middle of high school and you haven't started talking about sex stuff yet. It's never too late. And there are lots of ways you can get the conversation going. Don't just try to catch up all at once. That can be overwhelming. But it's better to have lots of little talks over time. The most important thing to make is to make it really clear to your kid they can ask your questions and come to you for support or fear without judgment. How do I answer my relationships with kids about sex relationships? Simple. When your kid comes to you with a question about sex and relationships, take a second to appreciate the good job you've done to get to this point. If they feel comfortable asking you these questions, it means your kid trusts you and respects you. The tips to these questions, like, don't jump to conclusions about why they're asking about. You can say, for what they're asking, you can say things like, tell me what you already know about that, or what if you heard about that? Keep your answers short and simple and explain new words that your kid might not have heard before, like manhood or penis. After giving an answer, keep the conversation up. You can say things like, what other questions about stuff like this do you have? Or what's going on in your life at school that made you think more about this stuff? Check their understanding. After answering a question, you can ask, does that answer your question? Or what do you think about that? Another thing, if you don't know the answer to something, you can look it up on your own or together. You could say, I'm glad you asked that question. I'm not sure how to explain or what the answer is. Let's look it up. You can look it up on your laptop. You can watch the Dr. Phil episode, which I'm going to put in the description below. You can watch this episode. And this is really a step-by-step instruction. Remember, it's okay if you feel a little awkward or if you're your kid, get embarrassed. But try to work your embarrassment. It'll be worth it for both of you. Plus, the more practice you get answering tough questions, the easier it becomes. And yeah, this was really helpful. This is really helpful for this show, for this broadcast tonight. Now, this was an article that was posted weeks ago. Today's parent really focused in on this. How to talk to your kids about sex and age. Here's an age, step-by-step guide. But we're not going to go through all this because we're really focusing on what's been going on. But if you want to read this article, we'll have this link in the description below. Plus, I'm going to start giving you guys step-by-step instructions on the newsletter at substack.givemeabreak.com with some helpful advice and information along with videos that way you guys can understand. So that is really a great way to go through with this. So I'm going to tell you some more. So I'm not really an expert on this. Lots of doctors are. But we're going to try to go back to Dr. Phil when we come back so we can learn more. Don't go away. Now that we've heard from Dr. Phil and read some things what they talked about, let's look at some other things from Kenneth Adams, a PhD. Take a look. This other way.
So a lot of parents are asking, well, how do I now talk to my son about the birds and the bees? We had a conversation that we all kind of followed script, those parents who were willing to do it, although most people learned about sex through their friends and through other exposure. But having parents speak to their children about sex is critical, just like you would speak to them about not crossing the road and how to cross the road and so forth. And I had this occasion as a parent, and I think it's a good example of one way to do that. And I came home, and my wife told me that, well, your son, now he became my son, as opposed to our son, typed the word sex into his iPod. And so I thought, oh my goodness, so he was 9. And that's about the age kids start really getting, exploring and getting curious. So I decided I was going to have a chat with him, and I knew I couldn't be heavy-handed because the moment I started trying to regulate his curiosity, I know I'd lose him. So my goal was, which I think should be every parent's goal, should be to open up the conversation and keep the conversation going. So that was my objective when I went to talk to him about it. And I had 3 goals in mind. I was going to answer his questions about sex because I knew he was curious. I was going to speak to him about what our values were. And I was going to speak to him about the internet. And then let him know that I was there for him if he needed to make new decisions about that. And that's what I did. He asked me questions, or actually he didn't ask questions, he just wanted me to talk about the physical act of sex, and I was just kind of matter of fact. I didn't get nervous or upset about it. I just kind of gave him some basic facts, and his question at the end was, well, do most people have sex to have babies or for pleasure? And I said, most people have sex for pleasure. So I thought it was an astute question. And I gave him our values and what we thought, how sex should be connected to values without being heavy-handed. The moment parents are either too permissive or too heavy-handed, both of those extremes will get you to the same place. A kid who will hide his sexuality from himself or herself and from others, and especially from the parents. So I always encourage parents to stay out of the extremes, not too permissive and not too overly moralizing or restrictive. And the last thing I shared with him was about the internet and the dangers, and one day you're going to be with your friends and you guys are going to be curious and you're going to do something and you're going to have to make a decision. If you make a wrong decision, it's okay. Just come talk to me about it. So I want you to know you could always come talk to me about it. So what I would encourage parents to do around this expanding universe of sexual exploration is to be there for their kids and to be a safe place for them to come when they get confused or overwhelmed. It's the best prevention. You cannot control access with your kids. It's impossible. So the moment parents start to restrict access as the only method to safeguard their child, they begin to lose their child's trust and respect, and they stop talking to them. Certainly, I think it's important to regulate the amount of time on the internet, and people have different opinions about that. So we have rough limits with my son, for example. I think people should have some limits about the exposure, because the truth is, if kids are on the internet all day and all night, they don't do their homework, they don't go to sleep, they have trouble sleeping, and so forth. So I think there should be some regulation. But if that's your only method of parenting around this, you're in trouble.
Exactly. That's why there's a thing called sex education. Now, sex education is where they teach all about sex. I'm going to play you some clips from King of the Hill when we come back, so that way you guys get a better understanding. And reminder, these are educational opportunities, just for educational purposes, not for fun. So stay with us. All right. Now that we finally focused on how to talk to kids about sex, and from birth control to birth, from birth control to dating at 16 alone, to really asking what questions, how to answer the questions when kids ask you so and so, blah, 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 blah. Let's focus on sex education. Now, I'm not going to throw sex education on the bus. I mean, it's really a decision for a parent to decide. And if it's really for the government to say they all kids should learn about sex, it should be up to the parents, not the United States government. And really, that's inappropriate here. If you want to watch a Netflix show, Sex Education, knock your lights out. But be warned, it may be funny to watch, but just be warned if you plan on doing it. So, it should be up to the parents to decide whether the schools should talk to them about sex. It really should be up to the parents, especially about death education. We'll get to that in the near future. Because that was just years ago. I would show you this, but we're not going to have time. But, in my opinion, I don't think the U.S. government should be teaching us about sex. If it's the school's policy to teach sex ed at a certain grade or age, that's the choice of the schools. Think of the episode of King of the Hill where Peggy was called in to teach sex ed because the teacher was out. Because the teacher was being threatened so-and-so. And Hank didn't want Bobby to learn, so I don't know why I'm laughing about this. But the important lesson here is it should be up to the parents to decide what's best for their kids. That's the most important lesson ever. And in that episode of South Park where the Red Rocket thing is all about teaching sex ed at 4th grade. Wrong. I mean, if it's up to them to teach them in 4th grade, 6th grade, or kindergarten, you're out of your mind. But that was South Park. Now, 2.5 Men, that was my favorite show. I mean, if you want to learn about sex with 2.5 Men, it's just not get lights out, but for educational purposes only. Get the whole season 2.5 Men, get South Park on Hulu, whatever, get that episode King of the Hill, watch the show, blah, blah, blah. Do whatever you need to, but the bottom line here is this. Every parent, the moral of the special episode is every parent wants what's best for their kids. That's the moral to this special. Well, that's it for our special on sex education. That's it for sex talk here. There's lots of things I did not cover here, but that's all I've covered on here. But if there's anything I've missed, please let me know in the comments, and we will try to do an updated one on the GMB YouTube channel. Like I said, for 6 years, we talked about education, we talked about bullying, we talked about everything else, but this really has taken the cake because parents really don't have the necessary tools and adjustments. You need experts, you need books to talk about this. I recommend you watch the Dr. Phil episode while you watch this episode. That way, or you can just watch one of them. Or just watch this episode or watch the Dr. Phil episode. Whatever knocks the lights out, whatever floats the boat. Or whatever floats your boat. You want to watch both? Okay, watch it on the phone, watch it on TV. Doesn't matter. If you got YouTube on TV like this, I recommend you do. We'll put the links in all these things in the description below, so that way you guys can know the way you guys can learn. And yeah. So that's it for Sex Talk. When we come back, Vi will break. And you're not gonna want to. Vi will break. This woman took the manager's straw, and she got pissed off. Wait till you see what happens after the break. Now it's time for viral break. Now it's time for viral break. In this video right here, I'm going to show you. This was from years ago. This is from back in May 12th of 2015, which is almost 7 years ago. 7 years ago, there was a video that happened. This was the full video where Starbucks manager got mad for taking the straw. This is the expert. Telltale experience in May 12th, 2015. Broadway Starbucks store and endless manager Melissa seems to have an anger management issue. She took an order of 1 Frappuccino and 1 special straw. I didn't hear a coworker asking my name to put in the cup at first because I was opening my reward app on my phone to pay. Then Melissa started to shout me and saying, "Hey, hello," with very bad attitude. The only thing I could say to her was, "Sorry, I didn't hear you, but you don't have to yell until now." I haven't figured out which word aggravated her. Then she took the scanner away, and I was trying to pay, and then she told me to leave and never go back. I was trying to ask other employees who I could speak to. She thought I am leaving with a straw in my hand. I picked it up before everything happened. She said I am stealing the straw. Really? Call me stealing? And you say call the police to get me out of the store? I felt so bad for what happened, especially nobody I can report her to because she is the manager. I am glad that other customers in store saw how I was treated and told her, "You need to get fired." Then she switched to Target and started to argue with them. I thank for this customer who took this video and sent it to me. I have filed a complaint with the customer service. I hope the district manager will take this seriously. This is such a terrible experience. Take a look. Before I get to the common sense, there is another side of the story. Here's the side of the story from the manager.
A Starbucks employee is caught on camera losing it with a customer. While she's no longer employed by Starbucks, she is telling her side of the story to our McGee Hickey.
This is the angry rant from an Elmhurst, Queens Starbucks employee that went viral. The video begins with the employee screaming at the customer, seemingly over a Frappuccino cookie straw. When the customer asks to speak to the manager, the employee continues to yell, saying she is the manager. The customer, Ruby Chen, wrote about the rant on her Facebook page, which was posted on the Pix 11 page and immediately got 750 shares with 250,000 reached and counting. The Starbucks district manager then offered the customer a $100 gift card.
It was like a ticking time bomb for me. So I have been disrespected by customers all the time. This is not the first time. I've had logs thrown at me.
The employee, who would only give her name as Melissa, says she quit and was not fired, and said the video only tells one side of the story.
She kept calling me names, and then she took the Frappuccino straw and she kept pointing it at my face. So I was already getting really upset, but then when I asked her to step to the side, she started getting a couple of other customers riled up. So I had 5 other men cursing me out.
Some Starbucks customers were upset when they saw this employee rant.
On this video, I can't see the customer doing anything bad.
The customer performed just good.
I think they shouldn't treat any customer like that. Yeah. They shouldn't have shouting at them.
A statement from Starbucks. The customer's experience is not reflective of service our baristas provide. The employee was immediately suspended and no longer works for Starbucks. Our leadership team has reached out to the customer to make things right. That now former Starbucks employee had worked here for 5 years. She's 25 and she's now looking for another job. From Elmhurst, Queens, McGee Hickey, Pix 11 News.
A Wisconsin.
All right. Common sense alert. We'll get this done real fast. Common sense alert. And I'm going to talk real fast here, so try to understand here. Okay, where do I begin here? You don't talk to an employee like that. You don't ever talk to a customer like that. As someone who works in the fast food industry, if I saw someone doing something like that, I would basically want to sit there. I want to step in and say, hey, be nice. If they tell me to stay out of the way, hell, I'll stay out of the way. But I'm going to get my camera and start freaking recording it. Actually, that'd be a bad idea because I'd be getting in trouble. I would sit with the live recording. No, that'd be fine. No, I wouldn't do anything. I would walk away. That's what I would do. They told me to stay out of it, I walk away. I would not get involved. Unless someone tells me to call the police, I damn well will call the police. And they will take care of it. They will. If you have any viral videos you'd like me to talk about here to see me react, comment down below what viral videos you want me to talk about for Viral Break, and we'll put them on and we'll have a laugh or two. Because sometimes on the show, we like to have some fun, right? We like to have a little laugh or two when we're talking about some very serious issues. Let's have a laugh together. And put a smile on the laughter. That's Give Me a Break for this Monday. We'll see you again for Give Me a Break Wednesday. For everyone here at YouTube, good night, everyone. And remember, you're the parent, you want what's best for your kids. See you later.